theme is love is stronger than death. In the poem, when Poe mentions, but our love it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, he's trying to show the readers how strong their love was. Even though Annabelle Lee is dead, he still loves her and he does not forget about her, and this shows how strong their love is, and it can't even be broken by death, which helps support the theme. And also, when he says, "For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of beautiful Annabelle Lee," it shows that even though Annabelle Lee isn't there with him in physical form, she's still in her memories, and he thinks about her every single night, and that shows how strong their love is, and not even death can make him forget about his love.
There are also a few symbols in this poem, such as the highborn kinsmen, which symbolize death, sea, the dark world around them, kingdom, their own world because they're very isolated, sepulchre, which is the state of being dead, and angels, which are the killers. According to the author, the angels were the cause of Annabelle Lee's death.
In the poem, Poe uses dashes after every single time he mentions himself and Annabelle Lee together. The use of these dashes help emphasize the time that him and Annabelle Lee are together because it was, the happiest times of his life. He also avoids using the word death and instead hints at the word by using less harsh language such as chilling and her highborn kinsman came. The softer word choice helps the mood of the poem not be very dark because on the inside he's still content because he has the memories of them together. There's also repetition of the phrase kingdom by the sea because the kingdom by the sea was basically their life together, and the repetition helps emphasize their life together and their little kingdom together because it was so important and so happy for him.
This poem is peaceful but moderately dark. What makes it peaceful is the fact that he says, "And so all the night tide I lie down by the side of my darling, my life, and my bride," which means that he still thinks about his wife, which makes him not as sad and happier because he still thinks about her, even though she's not physically there with him. But what makes it dark is the fact that he keeps saying, "in this kingdom by the sea," which means it's very isolated. So that could both be peaceful and dark.
Both of Poe's parents died when he was very young, and his wife, whose name was Virginia Clem, who he loved very dearly, died, and he himself was very isolated and alone growing up, and the death of his wife inspired the poem Annabelle Lee. As for career, he worked for many different magazines in many different cities and became a pretty well known writer, and he had a quest to become the greatest poet.
This poem's theme is there are two sides to love, good and bad. We can see this when the author talks about April and calls it gracious, cruel, tender, rowdy.
Also, Nash says April soft and flower linger, and April cold with sudden anger. And both of these quotes talk about first the happy, soft, gracious side of love, along with the cold, angry side of love, which helps support the theme, which is the good and bad sides of love. When Nash is talking about April and the good and bad sides of April, he's actually talking about love and the, like the theme said, the good and the bad sides of love. Here, April symbolizes the person he loves. The spells and charms symbolize the beauty of love. Cloudy represents sadness in the love life, golden represents happiness, and ever changing would literally mean the weather changing in April, but here symbolically it means the mood changes. Um, so basically, on the outside, the poem looks like it's talking about the month of April when it's actually talking about the good and bad sides of love.
The author feels pretty good about love, even though he does mention the downsides of it, such as when he says April cold with sudden anger. But most of the poem is positive and he feels pretty good about it, and he thinks of it as a beautiful thing, and he also loves it when he says, I love April, I love you.
Ogden Nash was known for puns and humor in his poems. He criticized religious preachings and talked about problems in America, and he loved comedy. He worked for the New Yorker, and he made guest appearances on comedy shows. And his wife was born in April, and she served as inspiration for his poem "Always Marry an April Girl."
For imagery, the author uses a lot of adjectives and adverbs to describe April. He says, praise the spells and bless the charms, April golden, April cloudy, gracious, cruel, tender, rowdy, April cold with sudden anger, ever changing, ever true. All of these help the reader understand what the author is trying to say about the different sides of April, and you can really imagine and feel April.